chance to chat with some of your peers over lunch. We have 2 sessions in this track before the afternoon networking break. First up, we have our panel which focuses on the hot topic of curation. So please welcome to the stage Elton Dsouza from EssenceMediacom, Agnisha Ghosh from MetLife, Dileep Singh from OMD, and Sarda from InMobi. And this will be moderated by our very own Ciarán O'Kane.
Hello. Great to be back again on stage for the second time today. One more time after this. So yeah, this is a panel about curation, and it's important to note that curation is a hot topic in Adtech right now, and we have to kind of frame it the right way. And I've been at 2 curation panels in London recently, and there was 2 people in the room that knew what curation was, and the whole room was literally confused. And I feel that Adtech is doing a terrible way of articulating the value of curation. So in this panel, we're going to strip it back to why we're here and why this is important. But before I do that, I'd like the panel just to introduce themselves quickly, because I'd like to know a little bit more about you.
Thanks, Gary. Hi, everyone. I'm Elton Dsouza. I lead data and tech for EssenceMediacom. And what that means is it's helping our brands, our clients, utilize data, Adtech, better for their media deployment. Yep.
Hello. Hi, I'm Agnisha. I work for MetLife. I'm a part of the Asia regional marketing team. And in terms of the work I do, I drive digital and advertising strategy for Asia. And one of the key objectives for me is, of course, the full funnel marketing, and acquisition is a very important part of what I do and lead.
Hi, everyone. I'm Dileep Singh. I head digital for OMD. What that means, essentially, I'm sure everybody understands, but more recently, my life is consumed with everything AI, as with your lives as well, I'm sure. So that's pretty much what I do.
Thanks. My name is Shrivardhan. I head sales for Southeast Asia and Hong Kong. From a mobile in-app ad tech perspective, we look at doing precision marketing for advertisers, and that's exactly what we will be talking about in the curation scheme of things in this particular panel.
Let's start off with the question that I ask people. What is curation? Because everybody seems to have their own view. Even the trade press, God, the trade press is the worst. They have no idea what they're talking about half the time, including myself. But I do have semblance of knowledge around this stuff. But I would like to get the panel to kind of get a sense of what they think curation is, because it's a word that's thrown out around quite frequently. Elton, we'll start with you.
Yeah. I think for me, curation is making sure that the money or the dollars invested by my client or a brand that we manage gets utilized in the best form back in media or back with a publisher, right? Bringing together the best that a publisher can offer in terms of clean media, clean inventory, supported with data, supported with insights, and making sure that more of the budget that we have goes towards working media.
That's a bloody good answer, but there's no right or wrong answer here, by the way, right? Think about this. We start at the very start, we figure out what it is, we understand why it's happening now and how we work it. So, Agnisha, I don't expect you to have a full technical sort of overview of curation, but from a brand's perspective, what's your perception of curation? What do you see as defined it?
So I think I echo what Elton was saying, so I won't repeat that. But for me, as a marketer and from somebody from the brand side, my advertising dollars are sacred. So whatever gives me that value, which gives me the ROI, is what is relevant to me, right? And when it comes to buying media, and we are looking at, say, programmatic, I want to ensure that I can trust the inventory that I'm getting. I'm getting quality inventory, which helps me drive better targeting. I think because today we are moving more and more towards a cookieless world, and with that, I have my doubts as a marketer that what's happening with my dollar and how are my agency partners going to ensure that I get value for my every cent that I'm spending, right? Because as I was telling you some time back, because now nobody lands up asking me what is impressions or what are your reach. Everybody is asking me what is your ROI, and I need to ensure that I can answer that question whenever it comes up.
Good answer, Agnisha. You're on every single curation panel I have going forward. Next up, Dileep. How do you see it from an agency perspective?
I think I'll answer it two ways. One is from an advertiser perspective, right? Like what Agnisha was saying. I think it's important that advertisers get what they paid for. I think that's the fundamental, right? They pay for inventory that's free of fraud, free of markup fees, that's showing on objectionable content, and all of that, right? That's the advertiser side of things. On the agency side of things, I think curation is what happens behind the scenes to ensure that as an agency, we work with partners or supply partners to bring you the best kind of content and inventory available that's premium, free of all of those things that I said, like made for advertising sites and all of that, right? It's ensuring that the quality inventory meets the advertiser at a place where it adds value. For me, that's curation.
For the man who's powering it all, at the very end here, Shri, who's powering the curation revolution, what's the perspective from the vendor side of things?
Yeah, I mean, from an Adtech perspective, when I talk about curation, I would want to put the marketer, first, which means we talk about the KPI, which is very important. So from a marketer perspective, if the KPI is ROAS, or if it is viewability, or it is high VCR, then we go back to the publisher landscape and we look at identifying only those set of publishers who are basically helping us to meet the KPI, and we package that by overlaying data. And the data can be in two forms. It can be audience or it can be contextually relevant in order to make it more personalized. And that's exactly what curation basically stands out as.
Right. That's the what. That's good. We started nice and started at the very top. Now, the question is why? Why do we need curation? Elton, I'm going to start with you because you've got some good sort of insights in this. But let's talk about sort of macro trends, right? Cookie deprecation, signal loss. We'll start there, right? Why we need curation when it comes to that key point?
I think if you think about how we traditionally did programmatic buying, right, wherein data starts from the DSP end to a DMP segment and that goes through all the way to supply. I think there are a lot of challenges with how cookie matching works and the accuracy of what it gets and what we see as segment fulfillment. But I think with curation, when we're working with supply directly, right, you can actually work with supply side first-party data, or you can work with universal ID solutions, right, and that helps with better matching, and then that leads to better fulfillment, right? So I think going beyond the cookie solution and into these other solutions coupled with curation just drives better impact for a brand campaign or any performance goal that you want to hit.
Yeah. So your ability to layer in new signals. So let's just talk about the cookie deprecation piece, right? You can't target across Safari, for instance, which are high net worth users effectively. Firefox is cookie free. Google's going that way. So like the ability to layer in new signals that allow you to kind of optimize towards a KPI is hugely important from an agency perspective.
Yeah, definitely, because even if you think about how the data business has worked in the past, right? It was a lot of cookie-led data or signals that are now being deprecated, right? They are also switching into ways that you can identify data points which are based on a stable ID solution. Yeah. And that definitely adds on to the accuracy of one-to-one targeting, better audience profiling, and then performance.
We'll just stay with the agencies for a minute. That sort of signal piece is important. I mean, a lot of brands now are optimizing towards stuff like attention, right? That's a huge... We're moving away from sort of clicks and verification sort of metrics, and we're moving more to attention as who's engaged with my ads, especially if you're like looking at a funnel, although I was told in the last session that the funnel doesn't exist anymore. But just from a customer journey point of view, the engagement piece is so huge, and there's the things like that you can apply to campaigns now. Like, so attention's one, right? We have our friends here from Scope 3 who are doing sustainability. So there's things that you can layer into to these campaigns, these PMPs or private marketplaces, which is kind of how most activation is done, which you probably know. But we've moved into this new world where we can layer in signals that kind of will make up for the loss of cookie signal?
So I think it's very important for us to do that, right? So I can't talk about the technology portion over here because we have the experts in the house. But from a brand perspective, the intent or understanding the intent of the customer is very critical for me, because today, there is overload. There is overload of ads. There is, people are there on social media all the time. People are consuming more data and more information also, right? Given all that in mind, how do I bring in my ad, tactically, strategically, so that it becomes relevant, and then, I can start talking about still marketing funnel is relevant to me, and how do I, still continue to capture or track those KPIs which are critical, right? So, for example, one of the points that you just mentioned, it's important because, we have, I've literally in the last 5 to 6 years, you've seen that, shift happening completely where, I remember when I started my career and, we would so happily report impressions and reach and, everybody would be so happy about it. And we're not there anymore. Yeah? We're talking about meaningful KPIs. And at the end of the day, when I'm reporting to the board, I am just reporting what is the marketing dollar that I've spent and what is the return that I've got. That's it. So for me, my partner dependency on giving me these kind of capabilities, which is new in terms of technology, where how things are changing, what is relevant for my audience, or what is beneficial for the customer, or how are they reacting to, the different trends that keep on coming and going. I look for my partners to give me that information, right? Because I can give them a perspective from a brand, which is, which product is working well. I can look at my past sales data and I can look at that. So where we are talking about cookie-less in one breath, for me, the importance again becomes, I know I'm moving a little away from the topic, but...
No, I don't. I think it's important that we stay on that outcomes thing, because we can't, I think Adtech has the tendency to talk to itself rather than talking to brands, right? So the KPI pieces, if you can't do the stuff that you did before without a cookie, right, or an ID, we need to look at new ways to do these things, and curation could be, and to some extent is a solution for this. And it has to kind of go back to a KPI. And whether it's a click, a conversion, or what I was talking about previously in LTV, which I think should be the sort of mantra that we all talk about now.
Correct.
That's the most important thing around this piece of technology.
Right. And for me, more and more with, when this entire transition to cookieless is happening, there is so much importance on first-party data also, because for every activity that I do, how do I ensure that the quality of data that I'm getting in is top-notch, right? Because that will, again, determine the impact of, if I want to run a nurturing campaign, or if I want to drive the LTV, how do I ensure that's happening? And I definitely feel because it's a circle, right? Because the ads that I do, the quality of leads that I get will again influence my, the future of, performance marketing or predictability that we're talking about over here.
For you, this should be just a mechanic to an outcome, right? Or to your KPIs rather than just... Exactly. Yeah. We want to talk, Dileep, just reasons why. MFA, right? And this sort of will chime very well with Agnisha, is that a lot of money has reportedly been wasted on made for advertising, and not just, not publishers with ads. It's like proper listicles and mostly sort of like, companies built around sort of clickbait, that are optimized towards vanity metrics like clicks and verification. So this is one of the reasons why we've moved in the curation direction. Can you talk a wee bit about that, Dileep, please?
Sure. I think MFA is becoming an increasing problem and an important problem that we need to solve. And I think, unfortunately, also in the industry, we don't have a standard definition for what a MFA is, which means we don't have a readily available exclusion list that we can just pick and deploy. So it depends on the appetite, because MFA is from slightly problematic to extremely problematic sites, right? It goes all over. So it's about where do you want to be and how do you want to play. So it's important that we look at what the brand needs are, where they want to sit and play. But it is inevitable that MFAs need to be weeded out of the system, especially the severely problematic ones, because you did mention scope 3 as well. And I think it's also bad for the environment. And when you look at environment and performance of your campaigns, and you start optimizing to those KPIs, you will naturally end up weeding out MFAs, which are, causing a lot of carbon emissions and give you low performance. So I think when you start doing that, you start realizing there's so much potential to optimize your supply path. It's coming from the other side. However, with curation, it goes one step further, where you don't have to start relying on DSPs to give you the data and recognize that audience. With curation, SSPs are able to work with their own data and not be trapped or restricted to DSP's ID, right?
We're getting into weeds here now, Dileep.
Yeah, okay.
It's important to note that point, that a lot of the DSPs, the big players, and I won't name them outright, but one rhymes with Moogle and the other rhymes with Fred Fesk. If you can guess those, well,
I don't know which ones you're talking about, really.
They're optimizing towards their own algorithms, effectively, right? Which means that you may curate stuff, but they are optimizing towards what the algo thinks is going to work for the client. So this changes the narrative around that.
It does. And I think it also brings advertisers very close to a clean supply chain, as we possibly can today. So I think just to add a final point, I think with all of the ad technology that we have today within programmatic, it was supposed to simplify buying, but unfortunately, more and more tech vendors and infuse themselves in the system just for arbitrage. However, with curation, I think we can get rid of most of that and bring advertisers closer to the supply.
I just want to add a point, which was on the clean supply chain that you were talking about. And in the past, we've been impacted by this, right? When it's because we talk about brand safety, and there have been cases where we've gone ahead and we've implemented campaigns in the past, and we had to stop like all our campaigns because suddenly there was this one ad which somebody spotted and reported, and that caused a big impact for us. So for me, with curation coming in, I want to ensure that it addresses this pain point for me. Like, I don't want to stop my marketing campaign, right? And derail my entire marketing calendar. How do I ensure that is, the impact is lesser? And how do I ensure that, this business continuity is not affected? So looks like a promising solution.
I mean, I can further add to what Agnisha just mentioned. I mean, when you're looking at supply path optimization, that's the mechanism in terms of ensuring the supply is getting cleaned up. You have multiple intermediaries today, right? But with the SPO route, I mean, you're basically getting rid of supply which is obviously very dodgy and which is not brand safe. And that ensures the partners who are in between, you being an advertiser yourself, you're the budget owner, the media owner obviously is the publisher, and between them they have measurement partners, they are creative enablers who are basically working round the clock in terms of ensuring that the supply which is going through is 100% brand safe. So supply path optimization in the value exchange of the supply chain becomes very important, and that's exactly how we look at enabling some of these mechanisms to ensure that the supply which is going through is 100% brand safe and there is no dodgy stuff happening there. And obviously there are benefits from a publisher standpoint in terms of higher yields, something which Rachel also called out.
Yeah, I was just going to ask about that, Shri, because obviously you work on both sides of the coin. Like, you've got publisher clients and you've got buy-side clients. And obviously with open marketplace becoming challenged because of cookie deprecation, like the cookie matching is not what it was, privacy sandbox is coming in. Do you think that this is an opportunity? Because publishers obviously need revenue to survive, like they're creating the content. So do you think that this is going to be a way for them to kind of like eke out more yield, right? Get more value for their inventory. If I just, what the trade desk have been doing is interesting. They've talked about not the open web anymore, but the premium web, and they're basically condensing the premium web into like 100 top sites. I think the thesis is interesting. I don't necessarily think there's only 100 sites. It's probably more like 10,000 decent sites, right? Small publisher sites. So curation becomes a way for people, companies like InMobi to kind of help them create value around their really quality inventory, right? So if you have a specific audience and you want to target them and you want to discount the MFA and all the crap and layer in the cool sort of signals, then it really is an opportunity, Shri, to kind of like help those publishers make more money from this. And that should be emphasized as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, from an InMobi standpoint and also from an AdTech ecosystem, I mean, when you look at curation, you're definitely looking at expanding your audiences. You're making your commercial messaging more personalized and more addressable. At the same time, you're avoiding spillage, which is very important because that impression which is not relevant for a user is basically a waste of impression from an advertiser standpoint. So when you're looking at the entire ecosystem, these are enablers which basically helps in terms of providing relevancy and hence ensuring that the performance as a metric, which is something you called out, is also being met. So that's exactly how the full circle basically gets stitched. Yep.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say that because you touched upon the opportunity for the publisher, right? I think the publisher has a lot of inventory, but sometimes that inventory doesn't reach us as at the buyer end, right? So for those who are clued into how the programmatic supply chain works, right, there's QPS capping that happens. We don't get to see all inventory or supply coming in through supply side, right? But with curation, there's the opportunity for the supply or the publisher to organize his inventory to a demand that the buyer needs, and then we get to see all of that coming in, right? So that helps them in turn monetize inventory that actually a buyer would have never actually seen if they just went out and put out a buy.
Dileep, what's the tipping point for this, for adoption? Let's talk about that. I want to get a sense. I think we're at the early stages of sort of proper adoption, right? We're just at the stages of defining what curation is. We're at the stages of understanding why curation is happening now. But let's talk about sort of adoption from your perspective. When does a brand like Agnisha's brand sort of really throw themselves into it? Do we still need to do a lot more testing and learning? Do we need to do more education? Because I feel that the industry hasn't, to use the term, hasn't a Scooby-Doo about what this is, and it's in many ways it just becomes Adtech soup, right? Another term that that's indigestible. But there's I feel that this is a real changing point with the entire industry. I think this is actually a fundamental change in how we plan and activate media and show KPIs. But I want to know from your perspective and your opinion, where is the sort of like a key adoption point?
I think it's been in the making for a while, right? It started with first we're happy with impressions, like Agnisha was saying, but then it came to viewability. Then we realized viewability is not a good measure. Then it moved to attention, and then
attention is still good. I don't know.
Yeah, yes, it is. I mean, it's a good indicator to optimize. You can actually buy inventory based on attention metrics now, which is a move in the right direction. Then the whole issue of fraud, etc., gets taken care of. At the same time, MFA happened. So I think a lot of it has been leading up to it. And finally, with the privacy, we are moving into a privacy-safe world. I think that kind of is the tipping point where a lot of the ID solutions today are restricted by, the DSP or the place where you buy, whether it is with UID or Google's own ID solutions, right, that they're coming up with. So I think that kind of restricts you from the publisher side, what you get to see. What Elton was mentioning, we don't get to see everything. So I think at this point in time, not everybody understands it, and I think there's a bit of education needed, and it's important that we work with our clients or with brands to help them understand how they can leverage the benefit of this. And I think what is extremely important outside of that is A/B testing. I think we still, though attention has been here for a while, we're still doing A/B tests on attention. So we are a little behind on this. So we need to really start, pull up our socks, start testing on this, and we can't completely do away with open marketplace buying, right? You can't do that. So you have to start doing tests and start showing value, and from there you just move in to that. And I think with the whole cookie concerns, which have become more important subject to discuss, I think that kind of is a tipping point for us to move there.
Yeah.
But I think my concern would be on the cost, right? I mean, with curation, because of how...
Is there another Adtech tax? That's
yeah, right. There is another tax for me. And it's not that I'm getting additional marketing dollars every year. So how do you strategically position? I think that's where the partners come in, right? Which is how do you position the solution? And, does it, in terms of its application or applicability, is it, across the funnel? How do the A/B testing, for example, like, do you need to do it, when you're trying to acquire a new customer? Should it happen in the middle of the funnel? Where is the relevance, right? And that's where...
That is a really, really good question, right?
Yeah.
Because I think that, we've got a theory around this. This is what we talked about this morning, the Adtech middle, right? And I think what's going to happen is there will be some price compression on the DSP and SSP side. And what will happen is the middle becomes more important, right? So if you think about the curation activation or the ID signal companies, whether it's a Scope 3 or a Lumen or whoever, those companies become really important in terms of sort of the value add, right? And what that does is, instead of a 20% fee be taken on the buy and the sell side, you have 5% and 5% and margin that goes into the middle to either free up more working media, which means the brand gets more value, or more money for the publisher. So I think that that question is so pertinent, because I feel that's probably the hurdle for total adoption, because if you're already paying 40 cent or 50 cent in the dollar for programmatic activation, and you're now told that another 20 cent has to go because the media is better, that just won't fly with your CFO.
Yep.
Or the agency sort of procurement teams, right? So, I think that this, I mean, Trey, I'm not picking on you, because you got plenty of value in the middle. You're going to make money whatever happens. But it's an interesting one. That sort of take rate, it's a question that needs to be addressed, I think. Does anyone want to tackle that long-winded question I just asked?
I mean, I can take a stab at it. If you see how our Adtech friends have moved, right? You have DSPs forward integrating into supply. You have supply now offering some sort of a buying opportunity. They might not call it a DSP, but you could buy through them as well, right? So I think between this forward and backward integration of Adtech, there has to be an opportunity for them to consolidate cost into one offering, right? I was speaking to a certain ad exchange or supply partner, and they said,
what I do is I rhyme it with something that's really confusing.
Yeah. Let's say we can call it Findex. They said
Findus or Findex. Oh, Findex. Sorry, Findus is the crispy pancakes.
Yeah, so they really said that they don't intend taking a supply fee for their
that's smart
marketplace, right? And they'll just stay with the standard supply rate that they settled with the publisher. So that makes it more possible for me to offer curation, because then I don't have to stack up dollars for the marketeer to pay for.
Well, Sri, you can pop in, because there's a question related. But the innovation that's going to happen with curation, I think, is not around just the activation. You talked about, Sri, about the AI piece, and I think that's where value add is going to happen, right? You think about there's so much supply. There could be so many signals that's where, the middle becomes important, right? That value add and exciting things where you can use AI to build custom deals according to KPIs, right? So let's just say that you may have a plan that includes sustainability. You might have a plan that includes attention. You may have a plan that includes DE&I. You may have specific formats you want. You may have specific inventory sources you want. So I think the middle becomes way more interesting versus this sort of activation.
Yeah, no. I mean, from an AI standpoint, definitely that is the future, I would say, right? I mean, because they are the one who are actually segmenting large data sets and making it more cognitive in nature. But then something called smart targeting, when it comes to location, when it comes to dynamic creative optimization, these are areas which are making it more relevant for marketeers today to ensure that whatever dollars they are spending in the open web are reaching out to the right individual. So from that lens, it becomes very imperative and very important from the ad tech ecosystem to kind of ensure that you are enabling all of these levers and taking the help and the educational piece from an AI ecosystem perspective. Yeah.
Anybody else want to take that on before I wrap up with the final question? Dileep, do you want to take that on about the sort of value add, the middle versus the activation?
No, I think with the whole pricing conversation, I think it's important. It's still an evolving conversation. I think the idea is with this, we save money. We do have a product that we offer to our clients, which is the marketplace, which takes away all of those unknown supply side fees and publisher costs, etc. Right? Takes it away to ensure that publisher gets more pricing. But it's still happening on a one-to-one basis with some of our supply partners. It's not scalable to do that. And I think until we as an industry come together to have this solution, how that evolves, will more tech players inject themselves adding to the cost? I think it's hard to predict today, but I do think we will see a future where it'll start off as also a cost-efficient way of doing things.
Yeah. So we've covered off, and I hope you found this interesting and informative. We've covered off the what is curation. We covered off why, how is how it's going to work, and the mechanics of the way forward. So I just want a final question on just a one-line answer. So what's next for curation? Like, what do you Elton, do you want to start with that? Just what is the next steps? We're going to see more adoption. You're going to see more innovation. Just give us a one-liner from you, please.
More adoption for sure, because obviously, even though it's not labeled as curation, a lot of us are already doing it by just making sure we buy better inventory, the right inventory, safe, etc., data-driven. So definitely, it will get labeled at our end very soon if you're not already labeling it as curation. I see the rise of curation services or managed curation partners who will be able to bring together multiple supply fronts to you, which you can track across maybe a single dashboard or a single platform, right? So definitely more of that happening.
Ad networks are back.
Sri is going, yes. Yeah, so I think definitely more adoption. And I think there's a huge play of data ingestion and the capability of AI in that, because brands are going to bring their 1PD in. They're going to bring publisher 1PD in, right? So definitely more first-party driven supply intent is what I see coming up.
That was the longest one-line answer ever, but I appreciate it.
There's a comma in there.
That's good, though. I appreciate it. Lots of semicolons in there. Agnisha.
So for me as a marketer, premium inventory is of utmost importance, right? How my agency partners do it, I leave it up to them. I won't interfere in their jobs. But one thing which is very important for me is that I get value for my money. And most importantly, as any marketer would say, and as cliched it would sound, is that I want to ensure that I'm targeting my customer with the right message at the right time and driving the maximum impact. So if curation is the answer for that, then, you know, I mean.
There you go. Love it. Dileep.
So I think everything that Elton and Agnisha said, right, it's already been covered. I think for me, it's more about us as an industry showing more intent to make this happen. I think it's once there's intent, because like I've said, it's been in the making for a long time with a lot of other things, and things have been dragged on for a while. So it's important that we start showing intent, and it will happen with. It's already happening in some places. We call it PMPs. All of us are doing PMPs. We curate our list today. It's about taking it a step further to make that happen with an ID solution that's not limited. So I think that will happen. It'll take time. It'll take a bit of education, but it will definitely need all of us coming together and showing intent.
Awesome. Shri, we'll leave the last word to you, because like you're powering this. Like you're the man. Everyone in this room has to talk to. Like.
I mean, again, I'm going to take the KPI approach. I mean, based on the KPI, there needs to be more number of curation. It is completely up to in terms of what media metrics the marketeer is after. So there needs to be more curation, and that curation can be enabled in terms of audiences. It can be enabled in terms of contextual relevancy, which will ensure that there is a lot of personalization and addressability and ensure that the spillage is lower. I mean, that's how I'm going to sum it up.
Brilliant. Do you know what? This is the best curation panel I've ever been on. World class, all time, because there has to be many curation panels, fairness, like maybe 5. But this is the best one ever, because we've actually tackled the problem. I think people need to realize that we need to get back to basics, back to the KPIs, back to the outcomes. Why is it necessary, rather than just another layer, unrequired layer in Adtech. I want to thank our esteemed panelists. There was a brilliant discussion. A round of applause, please, for our panel.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.